Welcome to Talking in Stations. It's Matterall. It's February 24th. Let's talk about EVE Online. To help me with that, we have Caleb. How's it going, Caleb?
Hey, guys.
Also in here, we have Tiberius is here with us as well.
Good evening or morning, depending upon where you are.
Gregorin is here. Might have lost his voice. Yeah. And Nick Bison's here. How's it going, Nick?
Is he?
He's out too.
Well,
Okay.
goodbye.
All right. Well, maybe they'll join us. Maybe they won't. So what's in the news today? Looks like there's an exploit alert. Let's have a quick look at that.
I think chat is saying you might be a little bit, or we might be a little bit low on volume.
Let's check it out. 1 second.
I can hear it fine. I think
Okay.
it might just be Gregorian.
What now?
Yeah, you're good now. How's my volume? It's okay. Yeah, the bars say we're good, so we'll consider it a local issue. Okay, thanks for putting up with that. Here we are. Exploit notification Abyssal Siege module. You know about this, right, Tiberius?
Yes. It has been in the game since the inception of Abyssal capital modules.
What is it?
Essentially, if you mutate a siege module and add it into, or put it onto your dreadnought, it allows for you to do a whole host of things. The most obvious one was the one that everyone saw on Exquishy's video, where he was running a rapid torpedo phoenix, a rapid torpedo phoenix, and killing a bunch of people, and then using a cloak to essentially, while his siege was running, which is technically impossible with game mechanics, but because of the current issues with the siege module, it allowed for it to happen. It also allows you to run the dreadnought without using Stront inside of your fuel bay. So there are certain instances where people will just fill their fuel bay full of isotopes, and that's all they have to put inside of it. This was especially prominent in the wormhole community, as well as some other guys who run inside of our circles, and as the information obvious, people obviously can't keep their mouth shut about quote unquote cool stuff about this stuff, so it eventually spreads, and then somebody makes a viral video like Exquishy, and then all of a sudden everybody knows about it. So
yeah, the big thing I kept hearing about more than any of the other issues was that Abyssal Siege modules didn't require you to train tactical weapon reconfiguration to 5.
That I don't know, just because when I learned about it, I just figured it out and reproduced it on CC and then bug reported it.
You did the right thing.
Yeah. I did not realize that it didn't require TAC reconfig 5, because all my Dread characters have TAC reconfig 5. But that's an interesting little add to that. So so you're saying if you mutated a Tech 2 Siege, it did not require you to have a TAC reconfig 5?
Yeah, that was the issue that got talked about most in the circles that I run in.
Yeah. So I'm going to add my own personal touch to this. I'm kind of frustrated about this the most, because this has been an issue that has been known for a while.
How long? How long is a while?
Since the inception of the Abyssal capital modules. During the release, as soon as it was released, from what I understand, it goes all the way as far back as that. So I can't remember when that was. November to
October, September.
September?
Maybe October, but
yeah, geez. So I mean, we're coming up on 6 months now almost. I personally have submitted about 10 different bug reports. And I know quite a few other people who have also submitted bug reports to CCP about this, and it has not it took somebody, making a video on it in order for it to, finally get the attention that it deserves. So, mildly frustrated about it. I realize that CCP is pretty busy with the stuff that they've got going on, but this is this is a pretty big issue, and the implications that it's had across the game for the people who have found it out, either through information being passed amongst people, or just randomly running into it yourself, has had a pretty significant impact on the game.
Yeah. Somebody was saying this was what you reflect, which is, hey, this took too long. And other people were saying, well, it's actually pretty quick, 2 to 3 days after it's gone public.
Right. But I mean, so the thing about with exploits is that you don't necessarily want to make them public, because then everyone and their mother starts doing it. A good example of this was when the drone lands exploit, when people were running out the drone lands and massively farming their standings in order to get double positive standings with the Triglavian and Edencom, so that they could have both ends of the content. Once people found that out, that spread like wildfire, and then CCP within I believe it was almost 24 to 48 hours was like, hey, this is an exploit, you can't do this anymore. So I'm sure that was probably something similar, but the trouble is that this secret was held so closely to people's chest that it just didn't really spread very well. It did not really spread around, and then suddenly I have no idea how Squishy got a hold of how to do the Abyssal Siege, but he made the video about it, and then all of a sudden they've got to put the brakes on it.
Yeah.
So
this is something I brought up earlier in the TIS Discord, but it was, if there's a problem and a few people are abusing it, they'll say, okay, we'll put that on a priority list right here, since it doesn't seem to be widespread. If it's made public, it puts CCP in a corner where they have to basically say, that can't happen in the game. There's 2 ways to fix it. One is by policy, one is by technology. So by policy, they say that's outlawed. You do it, you risk losing your account, or they need to technologically make it available to people by fixing it. So the order is, when they can't fix it because they don't have the resources to do it, they put out a policy issue that says that's an exploit. You're on the record now. If you violate that, you are risking your account. That's supposed to stop people until they can put the resources to it to fix it, which might take some time. And that's time that other developers aren't. Those developers won't be working on other things like balance, for instance.
I mean, and this is not to harp on CCP too much, but this is the reason why it isn't it immediately patched is that this is from my limited understanding about how coding and developing and all that jazz, because it's not my area of expertise. Just the simple fact that you can cloak, not use Straunt, and not have to have TAC reconfig 5 means that there is a huge bug in the coding of Abyssal capital modules somewhere, which means that it's something that's going to take a significant amount of developer time, or at least developer hours, I should say. So that's the reason why they put the stop hold on declaring it as an exploit, so that people don't use it anymore while they continue, or while they work on trying to figure out a way to unspaghetti whatever it is that's going on there.
So a streamer, Extra Squishy, put it out there, made it public, and essentially forced CCP into this corner where they have to call it an exploit and then try to fix it. Whereas before, not streamers, but players like you were saying, here's a problem, here's a snapshot of it, here's evidence of it, and turning it into them so they could deal with it. But they weren't dealing with it because it had been a while.
Yeah.
So does this make CCP create their own problem by saying, look, we won't deal with it until you force us to deal with it, by making us look like fools or, showing us exploiting,
I couldn't possibly comment on, their ability to deal with, those internal issues.
Well, that's a question for the whole room. Have you guys what's your opinion on that? Is CCP really kind of making it, encouraging it? Yeah.
I certainly think that it does. It encourages a form of secrecy that is not healthy for the game in terms of exploiting mechanics in the game to gain an unfair advantage. I believe that it encourages that kind of behavior. It's like, hey, I found this out, so let's keep it as down low as possible so that, I can continue to have an unfair advantage for as long as possible.
Well, you didn't do that. You actually turned it in.
Yeah.
But did they get back to you? Did they get back to you and say, thank you? They said nothing.
Nope. I still have all of the open tickets from when I submitted it. A buddy of mine also made a video about it on how to replicate it. And he did this all on CC, by the way. He actually went through this was back whenever there was mutaplasmids or capital mutaplasmids on the market in CC. He had 250 laying around, because obviously CC is only 100 ISK each. So you had a whole bunch of them laying around, and he got wind of it and he was like, hey, let's try to reproduce this. He reproduced it, made a video about it, all on CC, not on Tranquility, because it's obviously mirrored. He did it again. This time he went to Jita, made a mutaplasmid a Siege 2, did the exact same thing, showed that it was happening on Tranquility. Nothing.
And no response from CCP. Nick, what is white hat?
From his side as well.
What is white hat bug reporting mean?
I'm not sure.
Nick, are you in here? Can you hear me?
White hat is a term which generally means finding weaknesses in order to attempt to get the weaknesses fixed, rather than to exploit them to the detriment of the system that has the vulnerability.
Yeah, same procedure as in other white hat, black hat, gray hat nomenclature, right?
I don't know what those are. I mean, I do, but I don't.
It's a hacker term, right? If you're a black hat, you are deliberately trying to do something nefarious or bad. If you are white hat, you're basically trying to quality assurance and do penetration testing and things like that. And then you could claim that gray hat is when you're trying to skate between the two, right? And maybe not doing hostage stuff, but if you're basically saying, I found these features that are broken in your software, you should really pay me to help you document them and send them to you. Things like that. You could basically call this gray hat, right? A funny example in Eve is the old free moon goo feature that was reported several times by the actual moon owners, that you could pretty much put up a moon extraction unit and then just take it down, and then it would still keep feeding you moon goo forever without any infrastructure, right? So that was reported, and CCP really didn't fix it. I think it took them 2 years or something like that. So there was a lot of free moon goo around back then, and people kept abusing it, even though it was already reported as a bug to CCP. They had just not called it an exploit yet.
I've sat in a couple of those bug reporting, meetings in my career. Obviously not with the CCP, but come out with a new feature, gets tested, QA'd, gets rolled out,
Nick, back off the mic.
Back
off the mic a little bit. I'm trying to control. You're a little loud. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, and what I was getting toward was the never-ending punch list of we found X, Y, Z, and a lot of times you'll see the devs, head will sink down into their hands, and they're just like, add it to the list, man. We'll get to it. So I can see how it would get prioritized for later.
Yeah. All
Again,
right.
that's my kind of concluding my point here is obviously CCP, is backed up at the pandemic and everything else like that. It's my frustration comes from the fact that this has been out for a long time, and it's obviously it was obvious enough to us. It was not something that could not it is not something that we couldn't be. We decided not to be public about it. Anyway, obviously CCP is pretty busy with what they got going on, and we shouldn't gripe on them too much. But I am a little disappointed it took as long as it did.
Well, there is always this thing when it's these types of bugs that they have to go through the actual procedures, and it can actually take a lot of time. And I'm just happy that they actually announced this as an exploit, because announcing exploits is in itself half the solution, right?
Yeah.
It's because if someone is now massively abusing it and other players notice this, then reporting it will actually be something they can act upon. If they have not called an exploit, they can't. They basically can't really ban you for something if it's not really called an exploit yet. So I think it's good that they came out with this. It's better than nothing. And historically, there has been things that should have been named exploits way faster than it was.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's interesting. It falls in a gray area where if CCP doesn't give assurances that they've received the information, we're going to put this on a list to fix.
We have no idea if they had somebody fixing it, right? Or
right,
if it was one dude, or if it got put under a pile of papers.
Or it never made it past the GM. Like it kind of got stuck there. Like.
It could also be that this is actually not as easy to fix as we might think.
It doesn't look easy to fix.
No, I don't think it's going to be easy.
It sounds like it's one of those weird cases of, does it actually have that effect on this other thing? It's one of those spaghetti code things, right? That was not necessarily expected, and now they need to figure out how to find a solution that can pretty much cover everything like this in the future. And of course, we could dig into a whole talk about mutaplasmids in general, and this was bound to happen at some point. So I'm not that surprised.
I'm not sure if people are having a problem writing the word exploit in channel. It sounds like maybe they are. Moderation.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Blocks it, but I don't know what that is. So we didn't do it. If we did, I don't know about it. Yeah. So I don't know. It's a very interesting quagmire, because on the one hand, when you say don't do this by policy, it's an exploit, you do increase the risk, but you also increase the awareness, right? Because there is security by obscurity. If people don't know about a thing, it's a little safer than if everybody knows about the thing. It's like saying, we got a back door that's unlocked. If you go through it, you get thrown out of the building. But now everybody knows there's a door unlocked in the back. All right. Well, I guess that was the big news today, right? There was, by the way, just got word that another Tatara has gone down in Delve, S-TAC 6. That's not the first one. Let's see if it's actually shown up here. Citadel kills. Let me make that bigger. Guess we're switching over to war news now. It looks like if I'm looking here, warped intention stuff's going down in Legacy and Delve, Legacy Space and Delve all the time. Like Outer Passage has something going down.
Probably the biggest thing that happened, it was, well, last night, an hour or two after yesterday's show, during Trash Talk Tuesday, an Imperium Keepstar was reinforced. It was actually the staging Keepstar that Siberian squads moved into.
That being Aquarius?
Yeah. So there will be an armor timer tomorrow. And the Imperium will be forced to choose between continuing the M2 camp and supporting their new allies.
Wow.
Because
what do you guys think?
They can't have both.
Well, they can, just weaker forces, and they split up forces. You send a subcap to one, you send keep the they can. I think strategically they can. But what do you guys think they're going to do?
They'll probably stay with M2.
Goons will stay in M2 and have Init go help out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's ways to do that. I don't know if Init can turn the tide against a full Pappy force or anything, but I was trying to look at Delve's map and see. Oh no, I wanted to go to Aquarius because that's where this is that you're talking about, right? This is right here, isn't it?
GOP-TAC GE.
Yeah, that's the one they took first. There it is at the very top. That's a Keepstar in there is important because that's actually a logistics route, I believe. One of the logistics routes for Delve. So that's an important Keepstar. Not that you need a Keepstar for logistics, but if you need supers in any situation in the area to protect logistics or to protect your supply lines, you're going to want that Keepstar. So it's not a nothing Keepstar. Plus, again, Siberian Squad made their home there, and that's the home of their campaign to take over or to defend Aquarius, depending on how you're looking at it. And I don't know how effective Siberian Squad has been so far, although it was very celebrated that they were getting the FC from Siberian Squad Hanzo. That's the kind of the last I heard of it. Do you know how well they're doing, Gregorian? Gregorian, are you there? What is it? What is it with the sound situation?
It's just Gregorian, I think.
I think it's just him.
Is he talking and I can't see him? All right. All right, we'll figure it out. Let's see.
As to the question you were asking as far as how effective Siberian Squad is, I don't have the answer to that either, but they sure seem to be a thorn in the side.
Yeah, are you out there fighting in this war? Or Siberian Squad.
Can we just touch upon the fact that you called something almost a meaningless Keepstar, and I find that a little bit offensive. I know that it's beginning to creep in, but it feels reminiscent of when we stopped covering news about lost carriers and super carriers.
You misunderstand me, my friend. You misunderstand me. I said it's not a meaningless Keepstar.
Yeah, you did, but the fact that you even have the term meaningless Keepstar is what I'm kind of offended by.
You're looking at my negative space, right?
Yeah, I am. It's just the fact that we've even started sneaking in the whole term of there's Keepstars that don't really matter.
I'm not. I was trying to
already replace. We did cover that with the Ignoiden one. It's just
I was right. I was trying to be nice. I was trying to be nice to the Imperium that says that's a meaningless Keepstar in M2, a nothing Keepstar.
Well, you can say that these things, the write-off argument is almost valid. You can say that this is paid for long ago and this has earned itself back, like in utility and even in potential profits, at least once or twice over by now. So sure, then you can say the loss is acceptable, or at least it's not going to hurt that much. But losing a Keepstar is definitely at least something. We don't have a higher scale. So if we start calling losing Keepstars not really that important, and we don't have anything that can be lost, then we have to do things in bundles, right? And actual battle reports where things exceed the value of a keep star. I'm usually the one that focuses on things like the ISKWAR and meaningless losses, but I don't want to get to the point where we don't care about losing keep stars.
Well, I
And
agree.
the most significant thing about this keep star is that recently part of the Imperium's propaganda narrative is that Goonswarm is better at supporting its allies than Legacy is, Test is. And this is the new staging keep star of what their new ally, which just flipped from Legacy to Imperium. So, in my opinion, that's the most significant thing about this keep star.
Mm.
Well, that is still a Brave iHub, correct?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah, but it's not. It hasn't been long enough to be jammed.
No, but it's their keep star. I mean, sorry, it's their iHub now, so it's ticking up. But you're saying it's not useful yet. It will be in probably about 20 days. I think they took it over about 10 days ago, 15 days ago. I forgot to introduce.
It's got to be over ADM3 already.
Oh, hang on. Say that one more time.
I was just saying, I believe it's got to be over ADM3 at this point.
I'm not sure. Is there any way to check on here? We have to go.
Yeah. On the drop down, change it from iHub to Activity Defense Multiplier. Or you could click right on it.
There it is. Yeah, look at that. 3.
Yeah, also there's a drop down, so.
All right, I forgot to. There it is. 3.1. Wow. What happened there? Thanks, man. I did not know that was on there. That is going to help me out a lot. I can see the progress of things. Okay, so I forgot to introduce earlier, Mike. Oh, that might be a real name. What's your game name? Mike?
I think he's muted too. Everyone's just having
Didn't we lose
microphone
Mike?
issues today.
I think we lost Mike.
Oh, he's
okay.
out. Oh, he's out. He was here a minute ago. All right, sorry. He's a guy that's writing up a lot of, with some help, the newspaper that goes out daily. And I was going to explore some news with him and also introduce him. So we'll get him another time. I think he probably had a bug out. But he brought up a good point, and this is something that we haven't talked about yet. There's something going down in high sec space. Let's actually go there on this map, where Snuffed has decided they're going to target another thing, and this time it's going to be the perimeter. They've declared war, perimeter Keepstar. They've declared war on Tranquility Trade Tower.
I feel like this just reminds me so much of gangster movies or gang warfare. The whole snuff thing.
I don't think they seriously intended to do anything with this, because not only do they not have the numbers that they need, but it would really not be that fun. It's not the kind of content that they would like.
What do you mean?
They would need something like 10 or 20 times their usual fleet numbers for a max form, and they'd need to just be bashing a structure for 8 hours repeatedly.
You're talking about perimeter or something high.
Yeah, perimeter.
Right? Yeah. And that's the thing we were discussing the other night when we were trying to do a little bit of analysis on the whole snuff situation. They usually only form around at the top. I think it's 100 dudes, right? So they don't even have the numbers to do what they are threatening to do. I think not when it comes to, not if it's defended, right? And it's not like it's that difficult to defend something like the perimeter Keepstar. Of course, there's then strategies and shenanigans that can be done to maybe counter some of that, but it looks like the TTC people are willing to actually defend some of these things. So I don't think any of them are actually going to go down. It's only going to be these opportune low sec locations that can actually be done, right? Because that's where Snuff can bring their toys.
Yeah, the Snuffed Out's War HQ structure in high sec has already been reinforced.
That's their, yeah. Okay, so that's being reinforced. I think that'll be dealt with pretty quick. They have, they being the Tranquility Trade Tower, which is owned basically by a consortium of nullsec groups. In fact, 2 of which are fighting each other, or many of them which are fighting each other now. Horde, Test, Goon Swarm. Like all these guys are invested into the TTT. And they have set each other not blue. They're still enemies. They're still fighting a bitter war in Delve, a war of extinction. But that doesn't mean they can't work together in a different war against Snuff. So they'll probably take that out pretty quick. I can hear your typing. It should better be important. Oh, I can hear my phone. The world is catching up to us.
I'm just thinking that we should maybe start calling it the Tranquility Tower Commission instead, to reflect the mobster-like affiliation that's in there.
Yeah, TTC. Now,
yeah, it still fits. But the commission was that all the mob families together, right, in the New York mob history in real life. Because it is what it is. It's a cartel. It's a very powerful cartel, and cartels have a long history in EVE Online. We've pretty much done them on several occasions. Of course, the most memorable one is the OTEC cartel, and this is very similar. The money is there. The mechanics is basically supporting this being done the way it's done, and it grants them a monopoly. And it's been a really good business model, very easy mode, I'd almost call it. And this Snuff saber rattling thing, it's not really going to work. It's basically throwing a snowball at a furnace. It's like, come on, it's not going to work.
Well, a lot of people have lined up against Snuff, right? Because you have all these nullsec guys that are going to go ahead and team up in a strange way. And it's causing problems because they are actually accidentally seeing each other as allies and getting killed, saying, hey, I had you marked as blue. Why'd you kill me? And it's like, no, we're not blue here in Delve. We're blue over there in that other war. So it's there's kind of some comedy there. But on the other side as well, on the Snuff side, there are groups that don't like the Tranquility Trade Commission and think that it should go down. There's a lot of players in our audience that think the TTT should go down because it's giving a lot of money to these nullsec powers. Caleb, you and I talk about this all the time. Make a case for them living.
I'm both a huge fan, because I don't like when assets are sunk out of the game for no apparent reason. I don't. What's the Americanism? Taxation is theft. I don't like ISK sinks that basically takes value out of the game that could have been utilized in interesting ways inside the game, especially when in the case of when players actually provide a service, put skin in the game, then it should actually be in the player hands, right? I prefer that almost all activity when it comes to stations and structures should be on player-owned structures and not on NPC, because it's healthier for the game. It brings more competition. It's something that can actually be attacked, right? And NPC station is unassailable wealth. Where if it's in a structure, as you can see, it's assailable. There can actually be drama and content created around it. So I think that validates the actual profit making of those groups. Of course, I've said this many times, there's a problem with the way that structures are designed because they're not activity-based. So that means that a keep star in the ass end of nowhere with 2 people using it has the same fuel consumption as the TTT that has more buy order activity than GDA4.4. So I think there's a few problems when it comes to design, but the idea that players can do these things and compete with each other, I think that's a major content provider. And I'd like to see more of that, not less. The reason I'm a little bit butthurt is because I was part of the original attempt to do a massive scale high-sec structure consortium under the Mogul banner, and we kind of got pushed out and outcompeted by the nullsec cartel. Of course, the people in Mogul was also a lot of nullsecers, but it's just the whole model of business is different. So I'm both a huge fan and a huge opponent of the TTC. I want to be able to compete with them without requiring this massive amount of muscle, because this is not the Wild West we're talking about. We're talking about high sec. It should be civilized to an extent where you can't just push all your wise guys in and just burn your opponents.
Yeah. You know, when you had that blue screen up, you look like a Force ghost. Just saying.
A blue screen?
You had something on your screen that was blasting blue light at you, and you looked like a Force ghost.
Oh, that's the weird Twitch thing. Twitch is starting to do something because I might have an ad blocker or something like that. It keeps showing me this stupid.
That's okay. I just thought it was funny because you sounded so much wiser when you were like a blue ghost. Well, I think, again, we talk about this stuff all the time, you and I, and I'm thinking from the term of a high sec guy, why would I want to feed these null sec guys? They're arrogant. They keep dragging the game to their gameplay. They and they kill us when they're mad. When they're mad at CCP, they try to kill us. Like, why would I want them to have money?
I can see the whole, I don't want to pay null money for these services, and I want to be able to boycott them. And I fundamentally agree with the fact that you need to be able to choose with your wallet, just like in real life, saying, I don't want to trade with TTC because
why would they want to? Why would they want to support Burn Jita, for instance?
Well, yeah. They should have a choice not to, and I agree with that. I just want them to understand that when it comes to paying other players for services and allowing this wealth to stay in the game, even if it goes to people that you might find offensively wealthy, it really creates so much content. It's what pays for your SRP. It's what pays for your structures for organizations. It's what gives you access to things like loans when you want to get ahead. Of course, I'm talking about an EVE that existed 5 years or more ago, but I just think it was more engaging and exciting. It was a period where when industrialists and market guys and big money people competed, it was really harsh, right? It was there was actual pew or business versus business activity. What happened is that CCP accidentally, I might actually say, because I do think it was a bit of an accident, brought about the age of abundance. And when they did so, they pretty much made groups like, especially the Imperium, so much a chip king that the old wealth got pushed out. When then they got into the structures game as well, pretty much all what is usually termed as meta markets died. There's nothing worth doing these things for anymore. Hell, even loans are useless because ISK printing is so easy, right? So you can't even make any profit on loans because you have to go down to like 1 or 1.5% interest rate. It's just not worth the hassle anymore because we don't have the tools to make it easier. So we have to do it in very manual ways. And we've done this historically on massive scales. And again, jokingly, I pride myself with having been a key factor of one of the big attempts to do free porting in Null, which was when I was part of all the non-SEC marketable items. So pretty much all meta items could only be traded manually by handover or contracts. So you couldn't actually sell them on the market. This business was making a lot of money in the early days of EVE. And the project of moving into nullsec and free porting stuff and and doing the whole not blue don't shoot stuff, right? All these things was only stifled or stopped by lack of CCP design features, right? And of course the fact that some of our support crew actually moonwalked out of the big deals and stuff like that. And it's like, these things cost money. If you want to do weird stuff and big projects and take over entire regions almost from scratch, you need a lot of money, right? And that does not appear out of nowhere. That is what industrialists and market people are supposed to be doing. But, well, with the Goon Cabal and the TTC, it's really uphill to compete with that type of chip king and power.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Roast Muffin said trickle-down economics is what he's hearing. And you would admit it is trickle-down economics, but you think it works in this case.
In some extent it does, because in real life, if we want to segue a little bit into that, you can say that when trickle-up economics is at work and the rich get richer, they can't really trickle down. There's just not enough trickle down effect. You can't hire that much more people. You can't build that many more factories. You can't drive 5 cars, or at least the majority can't or won't. So trickle down does not work anymore. It's not really been working for at least 150, almost 200 years. But in EVE, there is a lot of things that you can spend your money on if you're wealthy, right? There would have been 0 World War B1, and yes, I'm using your term now, but the casino war only happened because someone got filthy rich.
Well, yes and no. A lot of the people who fought in that war said the money just attracted them to start it, but once they all got attracted at the same time, that inertia is what made it actually happen. But it depends on who you ask. I think the money was the honey that attracted the bees. And once the bees were all in place, they're like, let's make a hive.
Then we get into a very, very deep rabbit hole of discussing casus belli, right? And what drives a war and what is the cause and the justification of wars. But I'm just going to go back to materialist realism. You cannot fight a war without weapons and money. That's just not possible. You need motivations, sure. You need morale, of course. You need all these things. But without money, forget it. You cannot bankroll your war on things like fake money. You can't.
Well, you just made a case. You just made a case for the Imperium not surviving a war where they have no money for weapons, even if they have motivation to stick together. Didn't you?
Well, I think you can have a war, but the more your coffers are drained, both money wise and resource wise, you're going to be struggling, right? This is why I keep pointing out that some of the features that are missing in EVE Online is these upkeep features, is these fuel features, because that is the only way to have meaningful strategic goals when you're aggressing. Hit people's infrastructure, block them off from fuel sources. It's the Bakun oil fields in World War II, right? It's like these things are a feature that we really need to get into EVE, because otherwise we end up having the problem we have now, where we basically have the prospect of a forever war, because the win criterion cannot really be effectively reached. And I'm not goonsplaining now. I'm saying for both parties, there is no easy win criterion. There is no way to do anything strategically, because everyone is able to replenish everything. This is the tragedy of the abundance era, and it's not been solved with the famine. The famine does not solve it at all, not even a little bit, because the stockpiles are big enough to last pretty much forever, and there is still ways to actually replenish.
Yeah, Wormius says that's not how bees work, and he's absolutely right. It's not how bees work. They don't get together over honey and say, let's make a hive of it. But if honey were a flower in that analogy, that might actually work better.
All right, I think we need Dunk Dinkle if we want to talk about.
No, my brother has like something like 300 or 400 hives, because he's a tree farmer for plums and nectarines and all that. So he has bees as not as pets, but actually as like part of his machinery. But he really loves the bees. That's the thing about it. He fell in love with the bees. So, but yeah. anyway, so, but yeah, Dunk Dinkle actually has some bees in his home in the city. Okay, so anyway, we got too far off there, but the with the analogy of what brings people to war, what keeps them around after war. But again, back to the TTT, that thing is under attack by Snuff. Some people are applauding this, that's the point, and some people are appalled by this, and appalled by Snuff's moves lately, where they attacked the Pope's Satio and Keep Star and even a memorial structure and took it down. Then they attack Igniting instantly after being paid not to do that. So they are literally enjoying this bad boy reputation of just being completely, I don't know what you would call it. It's
vacation burglary.
Yeah, I love that.
That's really what it is, right?
Hey, the owner's out of town.
Everyone is out of town doing serious stuff, and the house is completely empty. Let's go egg it, or do toilet paper, or actually go in and fucking steal stuff. That's what's happening.
But that's
and
like
it's making a name for Snuff, right? I think it's a really good move. It's very smart, especially if you want more attention, if you want to, I don't know, evolve into a new form and a new role in EVE. I think it's a very smart move.
Yeah, Wormius tells us Snuff got pushed off a structure by Fraternity yesterday. Well,
oh yeah, that was last night. I watched some of it happen because I saw a couple of people who were streaming it. It was a final timer for Rote Capel Fortizar, which they had previously done fairly well in destroying NSH capitals that attacked it, but it has still been pushed to final. So it looked like they Batphone snuffed out, and then Winter Coalition showed up to back up the Rattlesnake and Capital fleets that NSH brought.
Yeah.
So Winter Coalition brought Titans, which snuffed out's dreadnoughts weren't able to deal with the super capital fleets that they were fighting.
Right.
Just to answer chat a little bit, or at least comment on it,
Mm-hmm.
there's actually zero chance that Pappy is going to run out of money. Don't kid yourself. They are perfectly capable of still making money, and if nothing else, Fraternity is very good at actually making money right now. So both resource-wise and money-wise, there is no way that starvation will stop Pappy. It had the potential to maybe stop the Imperium a little bit by cutting into the stockpiles and the coffers, but since they've now spread things out and they are using alts in highsec and wormholes, they're not running out of resources and materials either. This is what I keep mentioning. If that is supposed to be a risk at all in this war, the wealth destruction per day needs to triple, if not more.
Yeah, it's capable of doing it, just hasn't. It's a slow grind with a few peaks. Keep Stars that we're trying to get into Delve, and then M2, of course. Those are your peaks. But other than that, it's just been kind of a grinder on a lower level. Uh-oh, let's not get into grinder. Here is a question from the this is a comment actually from Oddvocado, that is. He says, does anyone worry that there are people with real money that will just walk in to help continue war efforts on both sides? I mean, how much real money to Plex can change the tide of the war, especially with the new Marauder changes?
Well, just to comment on that,
all,
it's very important that people understand that there is a limit when it comes to credit card warrioring. Yes, there's wealthy people both in the Imperium and on Pappy sides, and you could easily, if the game supported it, credit card your way out of this. The thing is, in EVE Online, that's actually not possible because it's the resources that are important. You do not build ships out of ISK. You build them out of raw materials. So there is a natural limitation on how much resupply you can bring into the game. Unless, of course, you start talking about things like botting,
Or
you
paying
could, of
people in
course,
real life to do things, right?
yeah, sure. If you started paying people sweatshop money, then you could do something similar and use real money. But otherwise, money does not, or real money cannot create ships.
Yeah, it takes man hours and that sort of thing. Should we talk gold ammo?
We can. I think we maybe should, because
it's a good place to talk about gold ammo. Buying your win.
Well, yeah, because in Echoes they just introduced that horrible method of handling insurance, where they basically print you a new ship and then do some weird stuff with buy orders. But fundamentally, they are creating a ship for you out of thin air with no industrial requirements, really. And when it comes to EVE Online, I think we still have to have the discussion, because when CCP makes money or needs to make money, it needs to give you an advantage. This whole thing of the fact that you can only do vanity items that have no meaningful or utility value in the game is a bit of a problem, because it's disingenuous, because you can't build a business on that, right? Because there's just not enough customers that want to pay for something that is worthless. So how do you figure out how low a level the value or the benefit granted by actually spending real money? This should be a thing. I do not support gold ammo, but I do think CCP needs to figure out how to introduce something like cyclicals, something like small boosts to get ahead. This is why I have mentioned many times that I would like to see structures change when it comes to industry, and I would accept some level of credit card warrioring when it comes to buffing these things. So yes, you have a smaller pipeline. So let's say instead of infinite slots, you have 250. And yes, you can use your credit card or Plex to boost the speed of production by,
or
say,
more
25%.
Slots. Would you be up for
Yeah, or
more
more
slots?
Even more slots would also be acceptable. I think
that's not pay to win.
Yeah, it is, but it's pay to win, where, again, this is any model of game out there that has monetization models where there is what would be called pay to win. It's usually this pay to skip, or pay to get ahead, or pay to make up for the fact that, say, I work 8 hours a day and you are without a job and can sweatshop 24 hours a day, right? I think some of these things should be discussed, because it is not fair that, say, you have a very active job life, especially if you're an American and you work 12 hours a day or something, and if you're a high professional, even more. You have plenty of money, but you don't have time, right?
Right.
So how do you equate that? How do you redistribute that? And I think we need some designs in there to make up for that.
In the chat, some folk were mentioning about, you can just buy skill points. Well, that's true to a point, but those skill points have to come from somewhere. Someone has to extract them for you to buy them.
Yeah, and I do think we should be careful about doing anything that buffs SP stuff, or the ability to get skills into the game, because we need sort of that gate when it comes to specialization. I like the idea of catch up when it comes to skill points, because I think the old school elitism, when I was sitting there with 150 million skill points and everyone else was like only half that and with no chance of catching up, I think that was ridiculous. But
Well,
I
say
think it landed in a very bad place. I think it's been abused, and in combination with some of the other things that came out in the same era, it's basically toxic and it's destroyed the EVE ecosystem.
They've allow packs. This is a comment from Rose Muffin again. It says, well, actually, it's Profix. Profix says there's skill points in bundles, so you can buy the bundles. But I think it's one bundle per account normally, isn't it?
Yeah, and the current things that CCP offer are not something that's horrible or completely damaging anything. It's the same with the skill points that you could get in loot drops. It was not enough to make any damage on a meaningful level.
So I get a bad rap for saying gold ammo is not something that CCP shouldn't investigate, basically. And not to say, look, the crowd is going crazy about this. Let's not even look into it. In other words, CCP shouldn't limit their ideas to the craziness that a mob can bring in the meta.
Well,
I think that's what I was saying.
it brings up a topic that I know you've talked about this week because our anniversary is coming up soon. The anniversary of the Summer of Rage is very close.
10 years for
and
that.
yeah, and I think it's important to have this discussion again because one of the things that happened in the Summer of Rage was the leak of the Fearless magazine, which contained an edition that was called Greed is Good, and they were discussing how to monetize EVE Online, and it just caused everyone to explode with rage. But I think we should visit the whole topic because I think one of the problems that CCP has suffered from is that they're really good at making games. I don't think anything compared to Eve. I think pretty much everything CCP has done for Eve historically has improved it by small steps. A few things have actually been unbalanced and not very good, and they have made some blunders. But fundamentally, it's been really improving the game more so than most game developers, really. But they need money, and they have been historically really bad at making money. They need some sort of cash cow. They need something that can. Again, I have enough money in real life. I would not have any problem. I would like to spend money on CCP products, but they don't have anything that I want. They do not offer anything I want. The only thing that they can give me is alt accounts. And if there's something I don't want to do, it's juggle more than 3 accounts. I won't ever do it. I tried it in a period, and I just burned out on it. I start hating the game. I'd rather have the same features on one account and pay 3 times the amount. But again, maybe that's just me. I just think there's better ways to monetize Eve than the current multi-boxing, multi-alt account method.
Yeah, I totally agree. I even was saying, like, instead of having Sino alts, your ship should deploy drones to far off systems. You can pilot those drones, but then you jump to the drone that lit the Sino for you. And they kind of did that with these new things that you drop. Anyway, we'll pick it up another day. I got to run. It's good talking to you, Caleb, and the guys that are in here, Tiberius, Nick, and so forth. Who else? With your Goran. And yeah, sorry, getting messages here. I wanted to see if there was anything newsworthy, but they're private, so we'll probably pick them up tomorrow. But thanks, guys, for watching. Talking in Stations. Again, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll pick up on the news, and maybe we can pick up on this conversation if Caleb's around. Okay, stay tuned for a raid. We'll see you guys tomorrow. By the way, you look like a Force Ghost again. I like this look.
I want this